We're going to talk today about all of our emergency operations planning, and some drills that we do. Help me understand what one of those drills might be that we've already prepared for. Yes.
An earthquake drill or a fire drill?
Earthquake drill, fire drill, outstanding. So during earthquake drill, what might we do?
Get under our desks and try not to get hit by the ceiling.
Perfect. What other drills do we prepare for? Yeah.
There's always like the lockdown drills where they shut the doors and they lock everything up.
Right. Lockdown drill. So help me expand on that, buddy. What do we do for a lockdown drill?
They usually lock the main doors. That way we can't get into the school.
Okay. In our district now, what we're doing is we're going to teach you to run, to hide, and to fight. Our first line of defense, if you will, somebody that compromises our school, is to run, right? Somebody help me understand, why might running be the new best practice?
There's a less potential that they'll actually find you or go after you.
If you run, you'd be more obligated to find somebody that will help you.
Okay. You want to run how?
Away from the shooter.
As far away from the shooter as possible, right? Where might the safest place be?
Would it be okay to run to a neighboring place, like a store or a house that's nearby?
So if right now we had an alarm and that went off and we knew that we were going to have a lockdown, the very first thing I would need for you to do is listen. If we knew that the shooter was in the library and I can provide you with some direction and say we have an active shooter in the library, we're going to run away from the active shooter.
Well, if the shooter is like shooting at you, they're gonna expect you to like run in straight circles or straight line. I mean, so you could like run zigzag because that's unexpected.
So if we can do the unexpected in a situation like this, we're going to be far better off. Yes.
So our class is pretty big, right? And if we all try to run, it's just a big group running, and what do we do?
So what we don't want to do is we don't want to create a worse environment by trampling over each other. Right? We want to be as organized as possible getting out the door. We want to make sure that we all recognize that this situation is urgent. It's not a time to worry about backpacks. It's not a time to worry about cell phones. It's not a time to worry about iPads. Yes?
Well, what do we do if the shooter's like outside?
Outstanding. So let's just say we were at PE or we're outside or it's lunchtime and the shooter's actually outside. Where do you think the safest place to run to might be? Yeah.
Inside?
Inside? Right? Yes.
Like a place where there's no windows, like the black box, or like somewhere high up.
Okay, perfect. So if we're outside and there's a shooter, we're going to have to assess the situation, right? Is the shooter between myself and the school? If so, I'm going to run into the community. If so, I might run to Safeway. If so, I might run to a neighborhood, a home that I'm familiar with. If the shooter's not between me and the school and we're outside, meaning I'm closer to the school than the shooter is, right? I'm going to do everything I can to try to get inside the school if it hasn't already been locked down. So again, our first line of defense when it's safe to do so is to run away from an active shooter if our school has been compromised. When we do run, we want to run as far away from the threat as possible. We have an active shooter in the library. We need to get up and we need to run. So while we're hiding, what are some things that we can do to distance ourselves, even in that moment, from the shooter or ensure that the shooter can't get to us or can't see us? Yes?
We could barricade the door with our desks and or chairs.
Barricade the door? Perfect. If you're a gentleman or a lady and you have a belt on, what use might that belt serve?
I have the device that allows it to close slowly, but if you put your belt over that, it can't open.
Perfect. So you can use your belt, right, to close the hinge.
Turn all the lights off.
Turn all the lights off. Perfect. Any other suggestions?
Silence your cell phones.
For barricading, would you just, like, how would you position the desks and stuff? Would you just kind of pile everything there?
There's no rule on how you're going to pile a desk. In an active shooter situation, when you're hiding, I don't want you to worry about breaking a desk, a chair, a pencil, a stapler, a book binding, a window. If that's what you have to do to survive, and make sure that all of your classmates also are put in the best position to survive an active threat. Yes.
After you close blinds and barricade the windows and doors and stuff, would it be possible if there's other windows that can open like freely that you could climb out of the windows?
If we're already hiding and we've barricaded the door, we've pulled the blinds, and we know the shooter's right outside our door, if we think we're about to be compromised, could we open a window and jump out a window? Absolutely. So anytime you can run or create that separation from you and that shooter, we want to do that. And at the end of the day, this is about you surviving, right? And that might make some of you like excited that you get to break a window. So at the end of the day, what we have to remember when we're doing run, hide, fight is that our goal is survival. That's what it is. Do we want to listen first? Absolutely. Do we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can do to mitigate loss? 100%. But in the end, if everything around you feels like it's kind of falling apart and it's just chaos, you have to do what you have to do to save yourself. Hey, we have an active shooter in the building. We need to hide. Barricade the door. Let's pull the blinds. We've already talked about running, right? We want to run to get as far away from the shooter as possible. Second thing we're going to do if we have to is we're going to hide. Talked about barricading doors, pulling blinds, being quiet. Our last, I guess, measure of defense is to fight. And we don't want to fight unless we absolutely have to fight. So unless and until you're clearly being compromised by an active shooter, do we want you to fight? What might fighting look like if an active shooter were breaching this door right now?
Then you might want to disarm them.
Okay.
You could throw things at them so they get they'll try to save themselves and maybe drop the gun.
Anybody ever had something thrown at them?
Yes.
What do you do when something's thrown at you?
I try to dodge it and get distracted.
Yes.
Well, like if you're fighting someone with a gun, like the best thing you can do is get it so that the barrel is not pointing at anyone.
Okay.
Right?
Our first line of defense is not necessarily to try to disarm, if you will, but we want to distract, right? We want to detract this person from their goal, and that is causing harm. Scissors is a great way, right? We can throw scissors. What else?
There's always things in the classroom, anything, just a stapler or a heavy book.
You could throw your desks or your backpacks.
Throw a desk or a backpack. If you have to pick up a desk and throw it, pick up a desk and throw it. Yes?
While the shooter is distracted or whatever, you could probably try to get someone to push the shooter off, get the person off balance.
If a shooter breaches the classroom, if the shooter comes into the classroom and we're in here, and the shooter wants to be in here, right? And we're going to throw, we're going to distract, we're going to detract this shooter from the mission. Where do we want to try to get?
Get out of the room.
Get out of the room. So I'm going to throw, I'm going to chuck chairs and desks, and I'm going to go at this shooter in an attempt to defend myself and then get away.
Say if there is a shooter and they come into the room and someone's fighting them, would you want the other kids to leave or would you want them to stick around and help?
If a teacher is engaged with an active shooter or another student is engaged with an active shooter and we have the ability to survive ourselves, right? We should take every opportunity to survive. But we've got to do everything that we believe is going to be counterintuitive for them. The last thing you think is that a group of kids are going to run at you with desks, chairs, books, scissors, right? Staplers, if you have a gun in your hand. And they might start shooting people, sure. But at the end of the day, if we just sat in a corner, we know what's going to happen. Shooter. You need to defend yourself. Go. All right, folks, so we've covered a lot of ground today, and we want to make sure that we drill for an active shooter just as we would drill for an earthquake or a fire drill. With active shooter, we do have 3 potential options. The first option for us is to run. We want to run as far away from the shooter as possible, creating as much distance between us and the shooter as we can. That might mean that we run into the neighborhood, we run into a local home, run into the environmental trail, or find ourselves running in a safe way. We want to do so and we want to take shelter there and be as safe as possible. The second option is hiding. When we hide, we're going to hide in the classroom. In an area of the room that the shooter cannot see, we want to barricade doors, we want to turn out lights, we want to pull blinds, and we want to listen first and listen often to any directions that the teacher might present. So our third and final option when talking about run, hide, and fight is the fight portion. And as the last resort, we want you to fight. We want you to use anything you have at your disposal to redirect, to detract the shooter from their intended outcome. And that is to cause harm to you, to me, to the rest of your classmates. Pick up chairs, turn over desks. You can throw staplers, books, anything you have at your disposal to throw at the shooter in that perpetual motion and attempt to run away from or run by the shooter. Remember, with Run, Hide, Fight, our primary goal is to ensure everyone's safety. This situation, it will not be easy. It may be very chaotic. What we used to do when hiding in corners, we've found just isn't as effective as we'd like it to be when there's an active shooter. Again, do everything in your power to ensure that you're safe and that we all walk out of here being able to say that we've done the right things in the midst of chaos.